first of all, I have to thank, I am a foreign national, so I must specifically thank Anna McCarthy, Luke Stark, the New York Department of Humanities, and the Department of Media, Culture, and Communication, because it was a pain in the ass to get me here. Now, being a digital artist, I'm one blown fuse away from total irrelevance. And for some odd reason, I find a lot of my work banned on LiveLeak, banned on social media sites, and permanent ban on LiveLeak is going on my gravestone, mostly for this piece. And the funniest thing the most disconcerting thing about this piece is how tiny those feet are. To me, that is so weird. So I am delighted to be on a panel with Shaw, since I'm a major fan of GIF pop, and of course my blue chip GIF art can be preserved for all your future art history needs. Like, I'm thinking about when, there is no more power left. I have this. I have the advantage. I didn't have to press the picture. This one's called They Loved Her on Account of Her Beauty, and you can see the GIF pop lenticular next to it. Now, artists like Anthony Antonellis and Raphael Rosendahl have made absolutely gorgeous lenticulars that, any collector would salivate over. I, on the other hand, however, my lenticular work kind of aspires to the qualities you would find in a pile of placemats at a dollar store, and I exhibit these seriously. So, to me, lenticular GIFs, especially in the art world, can be very subversive. And this one, by the way, is called Game of Thrones, Game of Thrones. And that's enough about Shaw. Okay. Now, it all gets worse before it gets better. I make art in the adult world. This particular piece is a small part of an installation titled Ungentrified. And I did it for Nuit Blanche at OCAD. It's a one-night citywide event in Toronto sponsored by a bank. Sponsored by Scotia Bank. And when you see this, think Scotia Bank. And think about like bank sponsorship or corporate sponsorship is with arts. We come so cheap. And I wanted to give back. Anyway, like several thousand, maybe 10,000 people came through this installation in one night. Like, it ran for a 12-hour period, and there were lineups. And there were several other artists, so I don't say the lineups were for me, but you could hear in the lineup, is this the lineup to the porn? Anyway, this is like part of the installation. The curator, Seven Hanchero, invited me to fill this enormous room with GIFs, and he kept on saying, make it as internet-y as possible. And I just made them promise they wouldn't censor me. And so they kept their promise, and they didn't try to control the content. And so I was able to create a very generous spectacle of gratuitous internet filth. I love this piece. Most of my current GIF work involves altered and collage compositions of animated GIFs that I've culled from, obviously, the less refined corners of the internet, which is actually most of the damn internet. And I want you to also, for the record, I absolutely loathe erotica. No, like polite erotica, that kind of like corporate stuff that's, it's fine for a movie. It's like coffee table book porn. Can't stand it. I think porn bloopers and failures are absolutely inclusive and hilarious. Like, all genders can laugh at them. There's something good-natured about it. I fell in love with animated GIFs around 2005 because I initially saw the potential of using my own videos as sources, but I ended up more interested in the GIFs that were being constantly posted by people who didn't position themselves as artists. The writer and artist Sally Mackay describes it better when she says, I revel in the excesses of the larger community of GIF makers. I seek out source material that is absolutely inane. So extreme idiotic activities appeal to me: cross-species sexuality, vehicular accidents, men and women wanking with rubber dolphins, masturbating kangaroos and bears, animals humping inanimate objects, animals who smoke, babies who smoke, because that's so cute, people fighting, animals fighting, pro wrestling, owls and bats doing absolutely anything. This is a big part of how I participate in online culture, and animated GIFs, as the writer Jonah Wiener put it, are uniquely suited to some very contemporary modes of cultural consumption, and they perform distinct functions other formats can't. They revolve around money shots, being economic mini narratives, many of them showing shared mass cultural experiences, as you know, every panelist has touched on today. And the other thing is I'm able to kind of contradict formally the linear nature of video and film by playing them all together many times simultaneously. I'm less interested in the pop aspect of GIFs. Pop generally, and successful memes generally, suggest success. And I'm interested in subcultures and people doing things that they're not supposed to do. And why they're showing me, I don't know. I'm kind of delighted about it. Now, also, all this collage work engages me as an artist because I'm negotiating these isolated samples from larger narrative streams. The end results don't actually require any shared recognition of their cultural sources in the same way memes do. If you missed a meme, you feel left out when they show it and everyone laughs. You're like, I didn't watch this one. My own themes of underlying anxieties and compulsions are clearly apparent. Now, it's surprising, these are just 3 separate GIFs together on the page, so it's not meant to be one collage. It's surprising when people refer to animated GIFs as an old and outdated technology, because in reality, it's very, very successful format, and they're ubiquitous and a big part of the visual vernacular of the web. That said, I have to point out that I'm not nostalgic for an 8-bit aesthetic. I'm not interested in the retro aspect of it. The images I use online right now are occurring right now, whether they're low res or high res, no matter what quality they are. Daniel Rubinstein, in an essay for Born in 1987, it was a show at the Photographers Gallery in London on animated GIFs a few years back, refers to the looping in an animated GIF as tiny affective shocks delivered every time the sequence coils back on itself. And to me, these abrupt rhythms that I get to create, they suggest human vital signs and heartbeats and breathing. Due to the low number of frames, they do hover somewhere between a still and a moving image, making the viewer actively conscious of what cinematic movement, all cinematic movement is an illusion. I also like the idea of, water. I like the idea of compression as a metaphor for art online. And early on, I got really bored by the relentlessness of 4 edges of GIFs. And, I should be at 12. I am at 12. And I wanted to make them occupy a web page in a more interesting way. So I started marking out the backgrounds, frame by frame. So each frame is cut. And this activated the negative space on the picture plane, and it gives another level of movement to the GIFs. And it makes it obvious that they are also sourced from elsewhere and other contexts, even if I'm not telling you. Now, several years ago, I was invited into a show called Unoriginal Genius, curated by Domenico Quaranta at Carol Fletcher in London. And yes, my giant fucking ego loved the title. Apparently the term was coined by the literary critic Marjorie Perloff, and Domenico goes on to say in his exhibition text, "In a media environment that floods us with all kinds of information and data, originality and creativity do not disappear, but have to be recoded in order to turn one's skills at filtering, selecting, archiving, reframing, and combining existing content, until now discarded as appropriation and plagiarism, into their main value. If the abundance of ready-to-use information and cultural content has become one of the defining features of our age, and copy-paste one of the main tools implemented in any digital interface, the way in which an artist deals with existing cultural material becomes one of the main parameters on which we can evaluate their work. And I must say, it's kind of delightful when museum directors, email you asking for the titles, and you get to say, historical wank. We use the term remix culture a lot to describe this point in time, but Domenico does state that the art world kind of has to move on from the idea of appropriation as a strategy or a statement all in itself, and recognize recycling as the vernacular, a natural way for us to deal with information. I called my most recent exhibition At Play in the Fields of the Lord. I mean, obviously, I love liturgical language, referencing other things, and also because I want to magnify the compelling and peculiar open source world of animated GIFs. And of course, I mean, I'm finding moving images very, very powerful. Finally, in the end, I want to say that the best thing, I know it's one of my favorites, the best thing is that animated GIFs are silent and mercifully short. And yet, paradoxically, they can loop into infinity, for better or for worse. And on that note, I'll end my presentation.